Mr. Alexandrovich, I know how strong you are in your own field, so please try to simplify it a bit because the audience is not as prepared as you are. Okay, I'll try. I'll do this company with such high professionals in their fields, and also to be able to address such a wonderful audience that I'm familiar with for many years now. An audience that I would like to assure you is very knowledgeable. It's an audience of thinkers, but nevertheless I'll try to simplify a little bit. While I was listening to the other speakers, I caught myself thinking that competitive enterprise and competitive economy is the name of the session is may have many different meanings. For example, there's certain competition between various organizations, associations, institutions that would like to help SMEs. If I were a CEO of a small company, I would be having a hard time deciding who to approach first, Sergey Bai or Annie McKee, for example, whether to learn from him first or to learn about emotional leadership or learn first about the South Korean system for supporting SMEs. It's very good competition. It's very good for us, the entrepreneurs in Kazakhstan. Unfortunately, I represent the other side of the coin. I am a government official, and I have to say that there's competition of a different sort, and those people who are working in the business community have to realize that for government officials, an entrepreneur is something they compete for. And a lot of people are sharing their experience today. It's everything that you'd like to transfer to people from your side. On the other hand, from the other side, there are constant attempts to reduce the profitability of those small businesses, if not take away the whole business away from them, but at least force them to share, so to say. And sometimes it is getting out of proportion, despite the fact that entrepreneurs have to pay their taxes already, etc. I am engaging this long-winded introduction just for the purpose of explaining what is my point of view on the subject of competition and what could business community could be really helped with. Please don't get confused by the fact that I represent a supranational entity, and this is something that's required. There needs to be a ministry in the best case, or an agency, or like in Kazakhstan today, there's the committee and in Department for Development entrepreneurship related policies. An entity that will try to balance the negative impact on the entrepreneurs by government officials. What I'm talking about
decisions that we make during 1 year, we try to cover 25 to 30% of all the actors through our inspections related to taxes primarily and customs regulation. And here are some of the examples when we intervened, and we have had some success stories. I won't go into details because that would take too much time. So those are all the issues of technical regulation, and while I'm looking through that, I should say that it's one of the most problematic areas. And in my point of view, most of the issues will overwhelm you because they will try to use as a protective mechanism the argument of protecting humans and sometimes even animals, but it seems to me that those requirements are sometimes superfluous and not well-grounded. And you can see some of the examples on the slide of what I'm talking about. Well, this slide has been corrected, and if I have like another minute, I'd probably like to talk about it in more detail. My colleagues have somewhat moderated this slide because they've taken out some of the most ambiguous things. Like for recently in the press and in the media, we have had a fearful story that very soon any items made of lace will have to be prohibited. No matter how funny it might seem, but it's true. This is an idiotic norm, I would say, but it was put into the technical regulation of the customs union. It was left unnoticed, and when it was said that it wasn't necessary to do this, the bureaucrats still insisted on this, because the capacity of lace items to absorb water, because they're mostly used for underwear, especially fashionable underwear, according to the opinion of our officials, this absorption capacity is very, very low, and therefore the poor girls, and not only girls, who use lace underwear will certainly suffer from a lot of moisture, because you're supposed to have 9% of water absorption capacity and lace only has 6%. This is an anecdotal situation. We try to explain to our colleagues many times that we should not do this, because, for instance, the medicines that you have in pharmacies and that are sold in pharmacies could be dangerous if you don't administer them properly. But this is not the argument to prohibit that medication. You just need to have the indications properly assigned, and then you should say that you cannot wear lace underwear 24 hours per day. I think that no underwear can be worn 24 hours a day, but again, if you warn the people, then this risk of increased moisture will be neutralized. Maybe some of them would even like it if their skin is dry, but the officials were not we were not able to be persuaded. We didn't succeed to persuade them. So you can probably stock up on those lace items. Meanwhile, maybe this will be a benefit, the benefit that I can bring to you. As for some of the things that we could be useful with, well, I don't think it makes sense to go through the detailed examples, but this slide is devoted to the Treaty on Eurasian Economic Union. Through those cases that we get from you in the form of complaints, we're trying to see what we can correct. So one of those things, we have been very much surprised to see that all the important people who try to put together those regulations to take care of safety, of human safety, they seem to have forgotten one small thing. None of the consumer rights protection regulations in our documents is different from the European Union. And the subject for my address to you, within the 2 years of very hard struggle, we've been able to persuade our colleagues that I'm just referred to, that we should create the procedures to identify the regulating impact of the Eurasian Economic Commission, because the European Union has them, Russian Federation has them, and Kazakhstan and Belarus, they will be created soon. However, when it comes to the local warden for such guys who take too much care of lace and other things, is not there. Finally, we've been able to create that, and we need to pay credit to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan, because they've been insistent. And the last slide describes how the businesses might participate through the institutes of the national chambers. So that's what I wanted to finish my presentation with. As the process has been started, and this will continue to exist, we want your expert opinion, we want your feedback. Please log on onto our page on the website. Let's share the context. We need your expert opinion. That's it. Thank you. Rustam Alexandrovich has provided a unique example that shows that competitive economy needs to have. One Russian company says, we want to make a call and to try to have some sort of an arrangement with the official to accelerate the procedures. What they get is a response. They say, please write to us. We will certainly answer you within 2 or 3 days. And they say, well, we want to accelerate this. And they say, no. This is the way it is built here. You have to write, and we will answer. You don't have any physical contact with us to buy something. from us. And you see the corruption issues. Here you go. So I just wanted to say that I was born in a small village. I lived in a dorm until 15 years, and therefore I would say this is an ordinary story of our village boys. I'm not trying to brag now. I'm just trying to charge you up with some positive ideas now. I want to tell you that any one of you can become an entrepreneur and work in the international market. Certainly, I believe that sport was very instrumental in my life. I think that business and entrepreneurship, it's like sports. As you have to win all the time and you have to be ready for competition. Therefore, this motto, I had it from the very early days. There is no other way. No one can remember astronaut number 5 or 6. Everyone remembers number 1, Gagarin. And then obstacles is not an impediment. When I studied in the Leningrad Polytechnical Institute after the breakup of the Soviet Union, we didn't have any food at all in the stores. It's probably something abnormal in the United States for Americans. How come? You can even find a job, you can make some money, but it's not possible to buy anything. Therefore, I would say we had a lot of fun back then. And if you have seen those movies about the bandits in St. Petersburg and so on, nevertheless, those times are gone, and we've been able to build our business. The first business was related to mobile phones. At that point, I was a student and I had no money. And when I hear that if you have no money and administrative resources, it's not possible to do this, I always respond that it is possible. The businessman will only work if they have a vision for several years. Then it's possible. So I was a student of the Stockholm Business School at the same time, and I realized at that point that you could go to the new markets if you don't have a lot of money, and little by little you can get your own share of market, because if it's a well-established market, it's hard to compete with Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble. So if a new market is there to open up, for instance, as renewables in Kazakhstan, you should go into those areas. I believe that it's the most promising market now, and I would recommend to find your own niche there. So without money, I rented out a small space in the metros, the metro stations, and in public areas, and I built my business, and then I sold it at a very good value. And certainly it's hard to compete when you have the administrative resource pressuring you, when it's hard to copy things, and at the same time it's hard to blog business. So what I understood is that I need to build the business that would be hard to copy, because sometimes you would suffer from someone who would want to take your business away from you. So I started acting as a dealer for one of the German companies selling industrial solutions, and within those years I've been able to build a company that now works as a manufacturer. As you can see, I called the company Arman. It means dream, because if you choose the appropriate name for the company, it will certainly entrepreneurs. What's important in the post-Soviet space is to focus and to be patient, because as a matter of fact there is not enough patience, and you switch to a different business trying to develop it. Now we have clients that are a part of the 500 Fortune list, the largest companies. This is the regions of our presence where we work. So you can see that most of them are the fast developing companies. We're modernizing and developing themselves. And I would say that our company is dealing with investment solutions, with telecom solutions and IT solutions. We have our representative offices in India, in Germany, telecom sector in Russia, in Kazakhstan, and in Singapore. We're also developing the energy industry In Kazakhstan, we won a tender. When I'm told that you cannot win a tender in Kazakhstan without an administrative resource and a kickback, I could give you this example. We have won this 1,500 kilometer pipeline bid to construct this pipeline, gas pipeline. Now we are promoting alternative energy as well. Hopefully the laws will be built in the nearest future, and we've been able to build some of the solar parks. And in 2012 I was recognized as the entrepreneur of the world. I said, guys, I'm just like you, I'm no different, 2 hands, 2 feet and a head. The only question is certainly planning. You have to plan. You cannot learn Chinese within 1 day. You just need to do some planning. Same thing for business. If you split it up by quarters, by months, and if you allocate 1 hour of your time for self-development, you will be able to learn a language or certain subject. So develop your competences, and you will be as capable as me. Hopefully, I've been able.
My side, I know that the OECD is reputed for being a statistic, a think tank, so I'm not going to bother you too much with a few statistics, but at least just to keep in mind what's the target. You can see that the share of SMEs in GDP or employment is far below OECD average, and when we look a bit deeper, you realize that a lot of the small and medium-sized enterprises are either individual entrepreneurs or close to the informal economy. So there's a huge potential, and this is the second statistic I will share with you. What I would like you to remember from our program, is much to do about being more of a do tank than a think tank, in a sense that we are embarking today with the government on Kazakhstan on quite an ambitious venture to promote pilot regions, so that they can attract foreign direct investors outside the extractive industry. And second, make sure that the linkages between small and medium-sized enterprises happen. And that's not so easy, and I'm not preaching as if we have achieved it. We are adopting quite a pragmatic approach, embedding the lean startup approach in our project, developing the most viable product approach where we have some core capabilities, and then we're testing a few others, and I would like to walk you through some of those that we have developed. One area that we are focusing on is what we call FDI SME linkages, how to make sure that between the government, the foreign investors that are an asset for Kazakhstan, to engage further in global value chain, and SMEs, this alchemy takes place, and it doesn't happen naturally. You need a platform, you need an institution to allow SMEs to level up their game, to be exposed to standards, to be able to invest in new skills. And that's what this whole program is about, that we are piloting with 3 regions: Atidau, which is most developed and well known for the oil, East Kazakhstan, which is well known for the processing industry, but we're more looking at agribusiness and non-extractive industry, and the South Kizilorda, which is a bit of a challenging region, very desertic, but at the same time has been able recently to record a huge amount of FDI. Linkages are very heterogeneous. They can encompass backward linkages as with suppliers. They can encompass downward linkages with customers. We can even link with competitors or with other technology partners. And this is what we are going to enforce as of Monday in Atidau, where we're bringing some SMEs and trying to bring even SMEs, association from SMEs from France, so that they can develop combined solutions to serve maybe not the end operator, but probably the first or the second contractors. But that's a skill that has to be institutionalized. You need the institutional capacity. You need the support structure from the local government, from the national government, and a lot of the building blocks are already in place. And more importantly, you need the right skill set and the right mindset and the awareness in the SMEs, that they can start competing and they can start inserting themselves in the global value chain. And they need to confront themselves. If they want to be global citizens, they need to start, contrary maybe to what we've been saying, that the world is a village for sure, but they first need to be competitive with the foreign investors in their hometown, and that's what it's all about, engaging with foreign direct investors. We're very happy that the concept of bringing experts is developing well in Kazakhstan, because we have at the OECD Eurasia Competitiveness Program what we call peer-to-peer capacity building, which is pretty much in line with what Canada is offering. But what we realize is that you of course have this huge pool of experts available, of talented semi-retired experts, but you need as well the relevant peers on the ground in Kazakhstan, and you need to get where they are, not necessarily of course in Astana, not necessarily even in the core cities of the Oblast. You need to go to the rayon, and surprisingly, in a world of digital convergence, in a world where everything is interconnected, we realize, as we have executed on this idea, that you need to go on the ground, so you need to become analog, you need face-to-face interaction, and you need third parties, new intermediaries that are acting more as knowledge brokers, so that this whole interconnectedness and linkages between foreign investors, SMEs, the policymakers can happen. And once those SMEs have found their skill set, their unique competitive advantage, it's much easier to scale up. But they need to first focus on what are the core DNA attributes of their companies and test them over and over again with foreign investors. And until they have proved the case, there's no need in scaling up. Because today, scaling up in the global world we're living in, and that's the living proof, is so much easier. You can access Eland's platform where you can accelerate your development. You don't even need to have anymore, as we were mentioning, a marketing officer. You can access data analytic experts through companies like Kaggle, where they have 15,000 PhDs, and they can take up your data analytics. What you need is to define your core skill set and have a clear view on what is worth outsourcing and what you need to keep to collaborate further with your peers and with FDI. On that note, I would just like to finish. Esteemed Mayor of Amman told us, and I love this quote, that history is about geography in motion. And I think that through our practical approach in the Eurasia Competitiveness Program, we're trying to adopt it in a way, and we're more looking at developing SMEs by putting skills in motion. And more importantly, I think focusing on this kind of self-starting drive that is at the root of entrepreneurship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Francois. We'll keep on working closely with your project, and the directors of our branches in East Kazakhstan Oblast and Yatra Oblast attended all the working group sessions that you've held, which were very interesting to us, and I very much hope that the plans that we're building now in a year or two will be able to talk about results already. Thank you very much. And we now have the Q&A session starting. I'd like for us to keep with the title of our session, Competitive Enterprises within the Competitive Economy. So let's become competitive in terms of asking questions. So questions need to be questions. There needs to be a question mark at the end. Thank you. Yes, please. I'd like to use this opportunity to thank the organizers of this session, the Ministry of Regional Development, as well as our speakers. Huge thanks to you. My question is more of recommendation in nature. It needs to be a question. Is it possible to include in the next panel sessions as part of the next 8th Astana Economic Forum issues that have to do with managing competitiveness of a company, of an enterprise, to take a comprehensive look at this matter, all the way to developing a model to manage competitiveness, because there are currently no models to manage competitiveness existing in the world. Thank you. Thank you very much, but this was not a question, but you made a statement. We've heard.
Good day, welcome to Kazakhstan. Our first question I want to ask from Mr. Yang Zhou in Kangzhou. I want to present myself. My name is Oljas. My surname is Rahimov. I'm chairman of Young Entrepreneurial League in Kazakhstan. How do Korea support young entrepreneurship until 30 years old in Korea? And which association they're working something?
Yeah, we have several institutions to help the young entrepreneurship. We have of course, our agency also provide quarterly entrepreneurship session. So we have a application form of around 100 young professionals entered our session, and then about a quarter of our people get a guarantee from us. It's a small amount, but we can provide them some guarantee, and then we can provide guarantee, and then they will be some successful entrepreneur in the coming years. And then there is another one, is a small and medium industries agency, and then they are more larger session for the young entrepreneurs. And then we also made a special devices to provide young entrepreneurs, because they don't have any ideas. They only have ideas. They don't have any money. They don't have any some experience. So we can provide some blanket guarantee for them. It's money is less than 10,000 US dollar, but we can provide new devices for them starting from this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. What about name of, for example, we want to work with them, cooperate with them, maybe our organization with your Korean organization, and construct the international relationship?
Yes, Coded will be a contact point. My agency will be a contact point for you, and then we will provide further information for them.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And, another questions?
I'm sorry. Another question to the Damu Fund. I wanted to ask a question about the School of Young Entrepreneurs. I've heard that it's happening in Kazakhstan, and it was in Russia, and I was actually really shocked by the guys there. There they all follow a set of standards in the Young Entrepreneurs School. There's economics, how to write a business plan, subjects like that, but there's no practical applied program like Yandex Direct, practical examples for if you're delivering pizzas or something practical as that. Yandex Direct and other tools, they need to be on the curriculum. What do you think about that? How to address that? Also, I'm going to surprise you, but we also know a lot about how training is set up currently. I have studied a project called Business Youth for about 3 hours the other night. It's an interesting experience of training from Russia, but I think the School of Young Entrepreneurs, in some cases, in some areas, we need to rework it, but I think now it's going to be more important and more necessary, because we have convinced the government of the Republic of Kazakhstan that it is young entrepreneurs should not be subjected to industry restrictions or limitations. In other words, they need to be supported regardless of the industry that they're active in. The government and politicians like to talk about developing this industry or another industry, but no one then compares later on how correct was the choice that they've made. Any politician is not a clairvoyant. He is not able to make 100% correct prediction. Therefore, we have made this proposal, and the appropriate government decree is soon to be signed. And young entrepreneurs aged through 29 years old, and the amount is even bigger. It's about 20 million tenges, so that's about $100,000. So $70,000 we're going to provide in an unsecured manner as a guarantee from the demo fund without an industry restriction. And I think when you'll be getting those guarantees, you'll be even more persistent in telling us that the schools, the training needs to be more specific about sales funnels, etc. All those practical, applied things, and the general things are less necessary. But I'm ready for cooperation. I'm glad that you've come from Montreal. And last time during the meeting that you may remember, we have the outcome of that was that we issued a guarantee to the members. Thank the Damu Fund very much for such an important meeting. I have two questions, if I may, to Rustam Akberdin and to Sergbay Visikesov after that. Question to Rustam Berdin. You have touched upon the subject of lace, but in the taxi business, since January this year, it was also because of technical regulations. There was an import ban implemented since January on importing the Daewoo Matiz and other cars of other models from made in Uzbekistan due to some limitations that it did not meet airbag standards, were not equipped with airbags, or there were some standards that they didn't meet the seat belts or child seat standards. And the result of that is that many of the taxi businesses are leaving the market because those Uzbek-made cars were about 20% cheaper than comparable models, and this was how the taxi business made its money. So it made entering the taxi business, the market, significantly harder. So, as an entrepreneur, as a regular citizen, when I look at the situation, on the one hand, we have the local domestic producers that are assembling cars, and they employ a total of about several hundred people that are assembling cars. We have those Skodas, for example, that are assembled in Kazakhstan that you can find on the square in front of this building of this palace. And I was talking to a sales person earlier, and he said that the cars were originally assembled in Germany, and then they disassembled partially, brought here, and then reassembled, basically, and they call it assembly. And so this on the one hand, and on the other hand, you have a lot of people that are involved in this taxi business, a lot of taxi drivers who were able to buy those less expensive cars, but are no longer able to do so. So this is what I see. And so when this happened, and I myself am active in this business, and taxi business, I tried to contact some government agencies, but I didn't get any reasonable answers. So perhaps this means that the issue is of a political nature, since you've talked on a similar subject of lace and technical regulation that applies to those. What are the mechanisms or a platform where a regular entrepreneur, a small and medium entrepreneur could be able to clarify those kinds of issues, to get some visibility for the future, or to simply seek clarification? That's the first question. Let us answer your first question because it's so long, and then we'll take your second question. Just get ready. You need to be competitive with your question. The question needs to be brief and clear. Thank you for the question and for speaking favorably about my presentation. I'm proud of that. But actually, the question is very good, very much correct. And this is exactly the type of situation that I talked about. The bureaucrats are blind and deaf to the requests of small and medium enterprises. And your taxi businesses are probably not very big. They're probably not too big, and usually they're extremely responsive and ready to listen when it comes to big businesses and their representatives. This is the harsh reality of our daily lives. Those people who are assembling those cars have more of a lobbying power, both here and Russia. And in terms of regulations, I'm not ready to comment on this. So the ban is already in effect, so that means that the regulations, the appropriate regulations were adopted at least 18 months to 2 years ago. So it means that the government agencies in all three countries, I'm sure it applies not only to Kazakhstan but also to Russia and Belarus, so it means that they did not notice the situation, or maybe they turned a blind eye to it. You've just ignored it. In terms of answering your question about how to track those things better, you need to go on the website of the Eurasian Economic Commission. More often, there is a separate section on technical regulation. The biggest source of problems is that area. 34 regulations have been adopted already. At least as many are going to be adopted in the future. This is a huge problem. The dead souls in Gogol's Dead Souls. There was this official called Nazrin who said, if I decided something, I'm definitely going to do it. They're unstoppable, in other words. So your main source of help is the National Economic Chamber at Atamekan in Kazakhstan. And I'll give you my contact details as well. Please contact my organization as well. When you encounter such things, please let us know, and we'll try to get involved one way or the other. Thank you very much. Seribai, you made an incredible presentation. This is the first example of my life that's made international business in an area that is not traditional for business in Kazakhstan. So I have the following question. I live in Kazakhstan. I try to build my own business in such a way so that it needs to Kazakhstan needs to focus on the import markets. So if we suppose for a minute or two, for example, that in Kazakhstan, for example, due to climate conditions, there's you cannot compete in terms, for example, agriculture, because our climate is colder. Meat from Argentina, for example, is going to be cheaper inevitably than meat made here in Kazakhstan. In terms of manufacturing, when you build a factory building, it needs to be made of concrete, definitely, and the concrete needs to be thick, and you need to heat it in the wintertime. It's probably better to build it in a warmer country. And so on and so forth. Our total population is small, so it's a small market. So when I look at those markets, for example, I rule out agriculture. I'm not dreaming about getting into manufacturing. So bearing this in mind, I'm not saying that it's so, but if you imagine that this is indeed the situation in the country, and bearing in mind that taking into account that I want to work here in Kazakhstan and don't go somewhere else, China or another country, but to do business here in Kazakhstan, what are the areas that have the best prospects, in your opinion, for small and medium enterprise? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your question. You talked a lot about the barriers and the difficult climatic conditions. In my understanding, an entrepreneur is the person who is different from the rest of the population. I always said that there are 90% of good, normal people in good health, and 5%, 10% are sick, 5% are mentally challenged, and 5% are free entrepreneurs. 95% always tell them it's not possible. They say it's possible, and they change the world, as Mr. Musk thought of Tesla. And I was told as well, it's not possible to build a company in Russia and to come and work at the international level. I think that there's a lot of potential in Kazakhstan. There's no competition in Kazakhstan. You can build a successful business in Kazakhstan. And then the closest markets to you are close by, China and India. We are so close to them. China consumes everything, including locust and other insects as well. So we have so much land, you can grow so many things. You can produce fish. All the fish is imported here. Kazakhs have always been involved in sheep production and horse production and so on and so forth. So keep developing that. There are lots of opportunities. I went to Shymkent with a lecture, and the people put a greenhouse there because they say it's rather warm, and they grow cucumbers and tomatoes, and they don't sell that to the Kazakh market. They sell those vegetables to the international markets, and they're very successful. I think that the government needs to support such successful companies, and instead of seeing them sending things to other countries, they should supply to Kazakhstan. I think that there might be some benefit in that, because Chinese cucumbers and tomatoes that we're getting now are not that good. They have a lot of fertilizers in them and so on and so forth. Even in the Soviet time, when there was no entrepreneurship, some people were involved in multiple types of initiatives such Annie McKee. Annie, could you please tell us if there's a good emotional leader in among the in the team? What are the methodologies that would foster quick change at the level at the behavioral level of everyone around him? Damu is a fund is a government structure, and everyone believes that government is means bureaucracy, corruption, and all other things. But we want to be different, and we want to be perceived as differently. How can we manage those changes? How can we introduce them quicker? Thank you.
That's a very good question. First of all, thank you. First of all, I think the phrase was mentioned a little while ago, role model. If you want people to follow you, you first have to be the change you want to see in the world. I think that's a quote from Gandhi, and I really believe it. We can't ask people to do things that we're not willing to do ourselves. So number one is we actually have to truly live what we want to be. If we want to be a powerful, strong, and compassionate leader, if we want our people to act that way, then we have to do it as well. If we want to act with integrity, then we have to understand our own values, and we have to act with integrity ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we make ourselves better than everyone else or pretend that somehow we're higher than those people down there because we're so pure. We're all human. We all make mistakes. But if we can really know ourselves and understand the values that we're holding to, the strengths that we have, the weaknesses that we have, and be really clear with people that we intend to hold ourselves to the highest standards, then in fact people are going to be more willing to follow us. So that's number one. The second, again related to emotional intelligence, beyond self-awareness, is self-management. Understanding that when business is tough, when the enterprise is challenged, when the institution is challenged, we're likely to be at our worst, not our best. And learn the skills of adaptation and renewal, learn how to take care of ourselves, and I really do mean take care of ourselves and the people around us, so that we're less likely to give in to the pressure and make bad decisions, do stupid things, cross our values in the wrong direction, or whatever it is that we do when we're under a lot of pressure. So knowing ourselves, holding ourselves up to the highest standards, and then managing ourselves, especially when we're under stress. I think those are two things that everyone can do, absolutely everyone. I can do it, you can do it, but we have to try. It doesn't necessarily come naturally. Thank you.
Задать вопрос, пожалуйста.
Ms. Annie, what type of business do you have? Which business, yeah?
My business?
You told before.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a global professional services firm. We provide consultation services and professional development for leaders in private sector business, government, NGO, and small to medium businesses as well. Primarily leadership development, coaching, that sort of thing. Yes, that's right. Thank you.
May I share a best practice in to answer your question in creating a positive environment around your business? You know, the expectation or the thoughts that you're potentially corrupt because you are a government entity. So if you're sharing the best practices and successes of your clients, whether it's on radio or interviews or newsletters online, you at the Damu Fund have an amazing opportunity that you are supporting entrepreneurs, and you're only going to grow. You know, 7 years ago, you weren't supporting as many entrepreneurs as you are about to. And to share their successes is the best way to elevate your perception throughout the nation. We use that in the United States, and it so helps everybody recognize the good work that you're doing. Thank you.
Спасибо, Тиффани, да. Это очень хорошо.
Zamir, good. Hello, my name is Zamir. Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a question to you. According to some of the information that we have, the DAMU fund will provide project management trainings. If I may, I can ask, I would like to ask Mr. Akberdian one other question. Can you tell me at least about one realistic project that has been, do you want me to name? Well, you keep saying that you are against technical regulations and so on and so forth. How about the real impact? Have you taken anything to the very end? Is there some sort of a result? Yeah, sure. In order to make my answer short, please use the presentation. There are some examples of those things there. Thank you. We will have project management training based on Business Advisor 2 for active entrepreneurs. This will be done for the first time. We have done a survey. We've done some focus groups, and this was extremely popular among the entrepreneurs, but I would like you to also attend that for sure, because you're an active entrepreneur, and then tell me in Facebook whether it was interesting and useful, okay? Thank you. Господа, все, пойдемте уже домой. Thank you, our speakers. It looks like the audience doesn't want to leave because it was very interesting. Let's thank people for coming to Kazakhstan, to Astana. And let's tell everyone, come again.